Okay, so what the overview is going to do is we're going to cover some different threat vectors. And what a vector is just a different avenue, whether it's you've been hacked on your computer, spyware, or on your phone with phishing. So what we're going to do is we're going to discuss some different things and what you can do to hopefully mitigate the issues, as well as talk about some breaches that have currently happened in the news that you may be aware of or you may not be. So let's, without further ado, let's move on. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is phishing. I'm sure a lot of you have gotten emails that you looked at, and they're kind of a little bit out of the ordinary. Oh, looks like Andre's just joined. I'll admit him. Welcome, Andre. We're just started up, and we're discussing right now about phishing and the different types of phishing that are out there, and the different types of social engineering that are targeting those phishing campaigns. So initial, we've got spear phishing, which is a campaign that specifically targets individuals. What it is unlike any other phishing campaigns, it specifically would target a C-suite executive, hence spear phishing. Phishing is more of a broad term that is used. We also have a new term called farming, and what that is malicious code that's been added into a program or an application and is sitting there waiting for a payload, waiting for a trigger to trigger the information to be sent, either uploading at nighttime, or it's just pretty much just waiting in bay just for the okay to start doing its fraudulent activities on your laptop or on your network. Smishing is a new term that probably not a lot of you are aware of. What it is a form of attack using your cell phone. So I'm sure probably every one of you have gotten a notification saying, hey, you just found $137. Please click here to accept into your Scotia bank account. Those are happening more and more frequently, and what we're trying to do is more or less just educate people with this with our presentation today of different threat vectors that are out there right now. And whaling is another one where large companies get attacked with CEOs and stuff. So what they'll do is they could be in the network or in that laptop or computer for months, just taking information down, how that person reacts to certain people that send emails. So what they'll do is they'll monitor it, and then use social engineering, taking all that information and going to let's say, for instance, I'm going to bring up an example of the city of Saskatoon in a couple of slides. They were compromised for over $1 million. So what we'll do is we'll just move on from the phishing campaigns. So just some of the emails I'm sure that you guys have seen where just the URL just doesn't look right. Something looks off, and I'm not sure if you can spot the distance, but have a look at the Maybank 2U. The first one looks pretty much perfect, but the second one you'll notice is the A is a little bit different. And how you can spot the difference without clicking on that or whatnot is if you see an email that comes in and it's a little bit suspect for you, what you can do is you can mouse over it. Just take your mouse, put it over top of it, don't click it. And what it'll do is it will put up a little notification saying what that URL is. Because sometimes what they do is they spoof them. It may say that it's maybank2u.com, but it could be going to a different address. Same here with Citibank. They're not the same because the A is different. So what you can do is if you're getting an email from somebody and you know them, make sure that you check to see if that link is valid, even if you contact them, phone them. But you can't be too sure nowadays because of the way things, the hackers are getting way more sophisticated, especially with the social engineering. And what they're doing is they're preying on people, and they're wanting us to help. So what we're going to do is going to go on. We're going to talk about the city of Saskatoon. 2 years ago, the city of Saskatoon, I guess it was on about a Friday afternoon, one of the ladies in the financial, the CFO's office, got a phone call and was asked to change some banking information, which she did. She also got an email follow up to that with the banking information. What it ended up happening was she clicked on that. They changed she changed the financial information. And it was like a Friday afternoon. The email that she got came from an executive saying pretty much what they do is they prey on helping. I was wondering if you could help me. I know that it's 3:15 on a Friday afternoon, and but I need to get this done. And if we don't get this done, there'll be consequences, such as for this, it was a purchase of land for a construction company. So what ended up happening was they changed the financial information, and the money that was supposed to be going to one place ended up going to the hackers. The city did end up getting some money back, but it's happening more and more. For instance, the city of Burlington, they were hacked, where they ended up pretty much for a few weeks running everything off of just paper. Can you imagine running all your tickets, all the work that needs to be done, potholes, everything that in that city for a few weeks had to be verified. So if there was any work that needed to be done on any of the streets or anything, a city worker had to go out, take a picture, and verify that that was the fact that needed to be done, which obviously we can see that that's just not the best way to run business. The city of Dawson Creek, the town of Dawson Creek, they were hacked as well, and ransomware. And what they do is they pretty much will lock you down until you pay. And if you don't pay within a certain amount of time, then they'll just wipe your information from your computer is pretty much locked down as it is. So we'll go into the next slide. So I'm sure you guys are all familiar with LinkedIn. I'm sure there's 100% of the people on this call use it regularly and at least check it probably once a week. So not long ago, there was 500 to 700 million user accounts that were hacked. And I guess within weeks, a gentleman named Tom Liner advertised all of the users' information and data for sale. So I guess it was about 90% of all the LinkedIn users were all their information was compromised and is now being sold on the dark web. So how does that happen? Through the application programming interface, the API, it was misused and didn't have security on one of the applications that they had. And in turn, pretty much there was a door there and went in and pretty much took all that information that's all in their databases. Lots of Stuxnet for information I'm going to talk about was a specific API that was targeted, and they were hacked. It was a Iranian nuclear enrichment facility that was hacked, and when things came out, that software was being built by, I guess, the United States and Israel. So I'll talk about more about that during the end, and hopefully we can get a little chat back and forth and get a little dialogue. Anyhow, so the data exposed were email addresses, full names, phone numbers, pretty much everything that person was using. So if you use the app, it's got geolocation records in it where they can pull up and say, okay, you were using it at this longitude and latitude. So pretty much got a timestamp of where you are. All the information, your background, your education, who your contacts are, pretty much everything that you possibly wouldn't want the bad guy to have. So what's next is LinkedIn users, they really need to be really vigilant with email scams. People using, for instance, you're getting an email, but it's coming from somebody that you haven't talked to for a while or whatnot. So just make sure that if you do respond to these emails, that you don't click on anything in the body of the emails, because that's where the payload could be delivered to your laptop without even knowing. I'm going to talk soon about a zero-click payload that just came out, where you don't have to do anything. You get a phone call, you don't even need to answer it, and it installs a malicious program on your phone and pretty much knows everything about you, takes all of your information, but don't mean to scare you or anything like that. We'll be talking about that next. So what businesses can do. Advise your employees to review their passwords. Make sure you're diligent and you're using a password vault, such as LastPass or 1Password app. I can't stress this enough. because using social engineering, people can figure out, okay, how long does, so where did this person live previously? They can run scripts for a password, I guess, hacking. When I worked for SecureSense, we would do pen tests, and we could scan 17 million passwords in less than 10 seconds. So that just shows you how fast somebody can figure out your password 123. So, like I said, I would suggest definitely using a password vault or a 1Password app, and being very diligent about monitoring your information. So always keep track of your emails. If you can set up a two-factor authentication for programs that you use on your phone, on your laptop, it's always best to do that. That way if somebody comes in and there's something, it's happened to me on my Apple account where somebody logged in from another country and I got this authentication and I'm like, well, what's going on here? So ended up changing my password, and then that fixed that out. Right here, I've got a link for you can check. It's called haveibeenpawned.com, and what that does is you go in and add your email address in there, and it will tell you if your email address has been compromised, and your password. It may show your password with a **** and the last 2 or 3 numbers or digits of your password, but this is really good to go and check it out once in a while. What I would suggest is when the time changes in the spring and in the fall, I got a note in there to go in and update my passwords. But now I'm using a password vault. Well, I've been using one for a long time, and I don't really do it much more than about once a year. But nevertheless, I change them, and I also just check. You've got to be diligent about your own personal information that's out there, because we all know that there's bad guys everywhere. So one of the things I noticed when I was on LinkedIn is people have the option to be able to put their contact information in, like their phone number, if that's their home phone number, their home address, your date of month, and of your birthday. One of the things I would suggest is making sure that this is not filled out. You do not need to have anybody know your home address for your LinkedIn profile. As well as your birthday, that does not need to be filled in, unless you're expecting a bunch of gifts from everybody that you know on LinkedIn. You never know. So that's just like if you click on your homepage, and then it's got contact information right here. Then go in there and delete that if you can. I would not suggest having that up there for the world to see. Okay. Any questions so far? All right, we'll move along. So a lot of businesses nowadays have plans in place where you're able to bring your own device. You can bring your own laptop, your watch, your backup pads, and everything. But one of the big issues is majority of the people that do that are using that same password that they have for majority of their applications to log into their laptop. And if one of them is compromised, there's huge vulnerabilities within getting into your laptop, but not only your laptop, but getting into your company's network. So I would suggest absolutely, if you are using your own device for your work, is that you update your passwords and do that as soon as you possibly can. Also, make sure that you keep your computer updated. Those patches are very important. When they come out, there's a reason why they've come out. That's because there's a vulnerability that they've found out, whether it's been a third party or whether it's an in-house tester that has found these. But super important. You may run into an issue where you have to deal with your printer not working because the drivers aren't updated or whatnot. But it's much more important to have your printer not work than somebody getting into your system and hacking you with your easy passwords, because there's an update or a patch that you didn't get done. So like I said before, this BYODs, security is super important, and data leakages could be detrimental to your business continuancy of moving forward. If you're down for 1 day or you're down for 5 days, what does that mean to your customer? You're going to lose their confidence in you. There was for instance, I had a customer when I was working at Telus. They had the fiber optics lines. They had redundant lines. They had a shock fiber going in as well as a Telus fiber going in. And when they were cut, they lost $500,000 a day in business, plus the amount of customers that weren't happy and that started looking other places for the products that they were selling. So getting hacked or it's detrimental. It could pretty much put your business out of business, unfortunately. But that's just the environment that we're in nowadays. I'm sure everybody at home, or a fair amount of people, have Google Home or Alexa and whatnot. One of the biggest, easiest ways people can hack into homes is the default passwords. For instance, there was a company that was selling cameras for baby monitoring, and they had left the default passwords in the, they just plugged it in, plugged and played. They didn't change the password or anything. And I guess from what I understood and read, that somebody had hacked the password. They just ran their password thing, and they were watching and recording baby monitors. So it's just something as simple as just changing the password, which is so important. There's been hacks on the Google IoT with not setting up, if you haven't set up your voice for recognition, that's something that I strongly suggest doing. In the reasoning for it, yes, you do have to read some documents. It's a bit of a pain in the neck, but nobody can then take over your devices, as in going into your network and turning on your TV or shutting off some lights or turning your heat up. Or let's say in the wintertime and it's 20 below and you go away on vacation and they shut your furnace off. So these little things, definitely most important for you for securing. And it's things that people don't really think about. It's like, oh no, that should be fine, but it's really not nowadays. You've got to be really diligent about protecting yourself and your family and your information, because it can be used against you. People can take accounts out, and loans, credit cards, and then you have to prove yourself innocent. And that's the unfortunate thing. It's not you're innocent until proven guilty. When you have to go to your bank and you have to go and deal with all this stuff, you are guilty until you can prove that you were in the city, you were in the country when certain fraudulent things happened on your account or in your credit cards or whatnot. Authenticate purchases. So in payment settings, make sure that you've got to put in a password. Let's say, so a lot of people have Amazon on their phone right now, and they can go click on there and go and buy whatever they like. It's always good to make sure that you need a password, or you can use a facial identification with the new iPhones and the new Google phones, or you can authenticate through a fingerprint with the older phones. So just different ways that you can become a little bit more security wise and security conscious. Okay. So some different things that a lot of companies they don't really think about doing is setting up a plan for when this happens, because realistically, if you haven't been hacked, you're very lucky, and if you have your security the way it is, it's only a matter of time. Security is kind of like a dike on or a weir, where you've got this dike and it's holding back water, and on the other side you've got your the bad guys, and what they're doing is they're using let's say a drill, and they're trying to get in through your wall, your firewall, or through your security, and what they do is they get in. Unfortunately, cybersecurity, they're usually ahead of us. We are chasing them. So what happens is they they compromise the system, and then we're the ones that have to figure it out how they did it, and then we got to block it. It's not the other way around. So we're constantly, every day, companies are fighting the war of cybersecurity, and it's just not so much companies, it's countries nowadays. You've got countries that are hacking, like for instance, Russian. They've got every country has a. I'm just going to bring this up now, and I'll go back to that other. So a lot of countries have their own cyber, I guess, companies that work for the country. Each of them have been given their little fancy names. Like for Russia, for instance, it's bears because of, I guess, their bears. They've got Cozy Bear, Fancy Bear teams. They have a team Sandworm. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but the opening ceremonies that were in Seoul, Korea, the last winter ones, the head of the Korea Olympic Committee. He's sitting at his chair. He gets a text from one of his guys saying they think that they've been compromised. And what happened was they were hacked. I'm not sure. They think it might have been Korea, but might have been Russia as well, because Russia, due to positive testing with steroids, and they've had a lot of suspended athletes. So what they ended up doing is taking down their whole infrastructure. One good thing about what South Korea did was they had planned for this. They prepped. So they had a backup of 1,100 laptop computers that they could re-image and have up and running, which was phenomenal. So a lot of people probably weren't aware of this even happened, because it happened, and then they ended up fixing it by the time everybody got out of bed the next day, and everything seemed to be fine. I was talking about Stuxnet earlier. Stuxnet was the United States and United States and Israel's collaboration. And what they did was they built a software that was somehow put on a computer in the I guess it was the nuclear enrichment facility. And they used to have, so the facility with the enrichment has got these centrifuges, and they spin at a certain frequency to enrich the uranium. But what was happening was the scientists are watching, and all of a sudden the centrifuges dropped with revolutions considerably, and then they went skyrocketed. So what happened was the scientists were wondering what's going on. They thought totally internally, they thought it was some of their software that wasn't working properly, or had a bug in it. So internally, they looked for this issue for a very long time before they figured out that it was a USB drive that was dropped and somewhere, or put on some laptop, and it could have been done by a third party coming into, doing cleaning or doing whatever. There's a lot of people that come in and out of businesses, so it's always it's always good to be aware of who's cleaning your house, your business at night. So Iran's got teams, Charming Kitten and Rocket Kitten, and they in turn attack other states as well. So in China's got the Panda. So there's a lot of countries that are full on in cyber warfare, and they're attacking the United States and Canada pretty much almost every day relentlessly. Let's go to the next page. So there's what can you do? Just there's little bits that everybody can do just to protect yourself, protect your company. What I would suggest is the password locker, like I said, or password vault. They're very good to use. Like I said, I've been using one for a long time. Threat landscape in the world is changing. There's sensors everywhere, monitoring everything you do, from your heartbeat to your EKG on your phone, on your Apple phone, where you're located. So what they do is they pretty much monitor everything you have. And if somebody gets into that, there's a lot of information that's in there. So Apple needs to be very diligent in their security. We haven't heard of many Apple hacks, unfortunately. Fortunately, which is great. But they are happening. For instance, Garmin was hacked, I think it was last summer. And the soldiers were running around one of the bases that they had that they thought was a hidden base, and there was heat signatures. So somebody hacked into Garmin, and now they know where all of the U.S. soldiers were running around, by which bases that most likely most countries weren't privy to. They ended up paying a multi-million-dollar ransom to get the information, to get their system unlocked, their laptops and computers and servers and stuff. However, that information is still out there. So when you get hacked, it's not that, oh, I'll pay the money, or the companies or towns will pay the money. That bad actor still has your information. And who says that he's not going to come back in 3 months and want some more money from you? So it's good just to do the little things that you can do just to make sure that your company is secure and your family is secure. For instance, I don't know how many of you use Facebook, but a lot of people put on, hey, look at me, I'm in Mexico, I'm in Hawaii, and it just shows that if you don't have your social media locked down, for when people can view, people can see, make sure that they are friends of yours, but some people have, you can share with friends of friends. What I would suggest is turning that off and only share with friends, but that's not saying that you can't, be compromised where they can see that you've got a 5-year-old child it's going to this school, whatnot. In the United States, they are very concerned about that, and the PTA have they've developed a plan for children that have been abducted and whatnot. I was working on a mobile app with the PTA, and it was pretty awesome of what they had planned, and like almost it was like SWAT teams in different cities. If children went in certain geo areas with their phone, or also had buttons that you could attach to your jacket, and if somebody was going to attack you, you'd hit that button, and then the police would be notified, as well as the kind of like SWAT team or the response team. A lot of times hospitals have been hacked lately. There is HIPAA compliancy, which is Health Information Privacy Act. But a lot of times when they do get hacked, for instance, there was a hospital in Southern California that got hacked that was using paper as well. They had to revert to paper, and the information from all of their patients they could not access. So they ended up going back to the clip charts, and then they had to pay the money. They got that information. They got their information. They got the system turned back on. But I think it was like 3 months later they were targeted again. So it's not sure if they were targeted by the same bad actors, or was it perhaps somebody said something to another country or another hacking group, and they ended up, or they could have sold it to them, for instance. So we were talking about the Zero-Click app. So it's in the news lately. There's a company called NSO, and they have software called Pegasus. It's a spyware that was developed by the Israeli intelligence. And the Zero-Click refers to you having to do nothing on your cell phone. You get a phone call, whether you answer it or not, it will take care of your device. It installs without you having to do anything. So it's one of those products that is supposed to be only sold to governments and police agencies, whatnot. But there is some countries that have accessed this software. So what this does is this NSO software, this Zero-Click Pegasus, it takes control of your camera, your mic, pretty much any information that's on your phone. It will take over, and usually what it does is the software will send it to a separate entity, separate servers. I was watching a YouTube presentation a couple weeks ago, and it was amazing that with this Zero-Click app, this Pegasus software, the app took pretty much the information late at night and sent it to 17 different servers. So if one didn't work, it would send it to another for redundancy. 17 different servers for redundancy is crazy. So obviously they must think that your information is pretty important. So be wary of also apps wanting access to your microphone, to your camera. Does it really need it? Why does this need access to my, to all of my contacts? So start questioning applications. The Apple Store is really good for, ferreting out or blocking nefarious apps. Google is not so much. They've had lots of applications where they've gone in and found out that they are sending all the information back to China or North Korea, whatnot, or Russia. So just be wary of the software that you're installing on your computers and your phones, because you may not even need it. And always be questioning, well, why does it want access to this? That's super important, just to call it out. Why would you need my contacts? So that's about it to wrap it up. Any questions? Okay.
I do have a question for you.
Okay, so there's no questions.
I do.
There's my contact information. If something happens to pop up where you think, hey, might be interested in, I got a question from Mike, or want to chat about something or whatnot, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is mike@talentmarketplace.ca. There are the QR codes for you to click on, so it'll make things a lot easier for you if you want to connect with me, as well as my LinkedIn.
Mike, are you able to hear us?
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, that's right.
No.
Okay, that makes more sense. Hey, Mike?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Let me send to the chat though. Damn.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Can you hear us though? Nothing? Okay. Maybe Andre, are you able to type your question?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing here now.
Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to shut off my other headset. Okay, can you hear me now?
Not that clear, but we do hear you.
I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me? Oh, great. Sounds good.
Headset must have had something conflicting.
Good. So my question is a little bit about do you see a relation between the amount of junk mail and spam that we receive in our email regularly by day with the on how maybe our data is out there available for third parties?
Definitely, there's a correlation between how much junk and spam mail you get to who's got your information and who's sending your email. So sometimes what happens is one company finds out that this email is a valid email, and then they end up selling it online as a valid address. So that's sometimes you go in and have a look to see what types of emails coming from. You may need to go in and opt out, but once you opt out, it's like a double-edged sword. If you opt out, that means that they know that you are a live email address as it is. So what I end up doing is I just end up making pretty much rules that if I get spam emails from this one, I just goes into a spam bin, so that I don't really give them the heads up that, hey, I'm a real person. This is just not going somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, instead of reaching out, but you can have a look to see, are they all roughly the same types of companies or that are reaching out to you or spamming you?
Yeah, it's like kind of, okay, that's what I usually do. I kind of change my identity from time to time.
Okay.
Because through the years, I could verify that as long as you keep an email, right, the amount of junk email and spam emails that we receive increases. So what I definitely do sometimes is just like, okay, I've been using this Gmail, let's say, so I'm just going to start using something else. And yeah, that's kind of what I do from time to time. And
I've got a really good tip for people. What I've done is I've siloed my emails. So if I go and sign up, let's say, for instance, by barbecue. So let's say I sign up for a barbecue website. I've got a specific email address that I use for signing up for newsletters. And then I've got a specific email address that I sign up for something that's, the stuff that's more important. And then I've got the one that I use, my personal one, Mike Gogglebox. So what I end up doing is siloing them. I first started out siloing by using the different mailboxes and then the rules, and I still do that. But when I'm signing up for newsletters or stuff like that, I have a specific email address that I use, and that's pretty much my junk one.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thanks for the tip.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions, anybody?
I'm going to hop in with one kind of tip related to that as well.
Sure.
So if anyone that is using a Gmail address, what you can actually do if you're signing up for new accounts or stuff like that that require an email address for login, you can add a plus anything after the first part of your email address. I'll put something in the chat as an example with the same domain at gmail.com. And then that makes it harder for hackers or anything like that to guess your email address. And that way, if your email is leaked on a LinkedIn leak, for example, then they only get that one specific email address, and then they won't necessarily be able to guess your other user or login information for other sites.
Nice. I like that.
Okay.
I did not know that one. Anybody else? You know, whether it's, you know, personal questions about your security or business, I'm here to answer if anybody has any.
Yeah, I kind of would like to, if you have any further information on that, I would like to know a little bit more about the zero click.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Pegasus.
This is really
That's crazy. Yeah, I'll definitely. If you want to put your email in here, then I'll follow up with you, and we can take it on the side.
Sure. See.
I think we might even had it when you signed up. I'm pretty sure, right,
Oh
Scott?
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we've got it. So what I can do is I'll fire off an email. We can set up a time where we can just chat and talk about that further. No problem.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks everybody for your time. I really appreciate it. I know that everybody's meetings all the time and webinars, and hopefully the next one we can do it in person. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and thanks very much for your time again.
Thanks, Mike.